Welcome to Stand Up for Doctors. I'm your host, 𝘕𝘵𝘠𝗵𝗍. Thank you very much for joining us. This channel is dedicated to amplifying the voices of doctors, other healthcare professionals, and patients as they share their unique struggles, triumphs, and passions. My mission is to build connection and create advocacy for healthy doctors, driving positive change that benefits both doctors and patients. This is a space for everyone who cares about the future of healthcare. If you appreciate this content, please like and subscribe now. It really helps the episodes reach our target audience. And I would like to welcome Dr. Chrissie and Beth Boynton. Thanks for joining us today, Chrissie and Beth.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for having us, Kim.
You're very welcome. This is going to be really fun, so I can't wait. And by way of a brief introduction, Dr. Chrissie is the founder and CEO of Joy Point Solutions, a CWO trained well-beingologist, multi-passionate med-peds doc, Solving for Joy podcast host, coach, speaker, conspirator, closet karaoke friend, and proud. And Beth Boynton is a nurse, founder of Boynton Improv Education, and author, including the Medical Improv Toolkit, 10 simple activities to promote safe care, healthy workplaces, and rewarding careers. And thank you for sending me your book. I have it right here, and that will be part of our conversation.
Goody.
And today we'll be talking about how Beth is a nurse, consultant, and medical improv guru, and Chrissie is a physician whose podcast is titled Solving for Joy. And I was fortunate and privileged to be a recent guest. And there is synergy in your messaging as it relates to promoting positive communication and finding joy in your work and in your life. And I thought it would be really fun to have you on together. And what I would like to ask first is, what would you most like our audience to know about you? And Chrissie, would you like to go first?
Sure. What would I like the audience to most know about me? Um, I think that my current repertoire around joy speaks to the value I hold for that concept in life right now, and that I understand joy not as a check off the list one and done thing, and certainly not just something as simple as happiness or gratification, but a beautiful coalescence of meaning, alignment, and delight. Um, and many things can help us solve for joy, but I think bringing it into the light of awareness and choosing it consciously can make a huge difference in creating a life that we are proud of and want to live.
That's really beautifully said. And thank you, Chrissie. Beth, what would you most like us to know about you?
Yeah, and that's awesome. I just want to echo that, to be intentional about joy. I want people to know that I am very passionate about helping healthcare become safer and more compassionate and more dignified for everybody. And I include patients and families, as well as doctors and nurses and physical therapists, all the people that provide care. And that as a medical improv practitioner, I know and have seen how valuable that can be in helping us in that way.
Well, that's
Yeah.
fantastic, and communication is so important. So
Mm.
Beth, if you would like to start us off by sharing how you got involved with improv and communication.
Yeah, I'll try to give the short-ish version because um, I've been a nurse for a long time, and there was a point in my life about 25 years ago when I was in this like personal crisis where my partner of 10 years was actually leaving me for somebody else. And we had a son. It was a same-sex
Hmm.
relationship, and she was the biological mother, and our son was 5 years old. And I was just so scared that I was going to lose him because at that time, he's 34 now, but I just I had to learn how I formed relationships, how I gave up my power in relationships, what my where my habits were in terms of communication and other emotional intelligence skills. So I found a wonderful therapist who was incredibly helpful. But also, I took an improv class with my son because he was so shy, but he was very vibrant in the theater world. And when I started to take that community improv class, I could just see that the things that I was learning in my counseling, I could actually practice in with other people and have fun in the improv setting. So so I started to just look at improv activities in terms of how they could be helpful with emotional intelligence. Meanwhile, the Institute of Medicine was coming out with those groundbreaking support reports about, oh, we're making a lot of mistakes and communication is underlying reason. So I went to graduate school, I started a consulting business. I was actually going to get out of healthcare at the time, but then I just discovered that the tools that I had and was using could be very helpful in healthcare. So hopefully that's kind of a combination of personal and professional
Mhm.
experience.
Yeah, well, that's great, and that's how a lot of us find our way, right? And make some pivots.
Yep.
Chrissy, whatever Beth said, whatever it brought up for you, and do you have any experience with improv?
Yeah, I love when life brings us these apparently disparate experiences, and then we find out they were perfectly preparing us for this next thing we couldn't see around the corner. So I love seeing that every time I see it. I hope that things worked out with your parent rights. As
Oh,
a queer
thank
person
you.
myself,
I have a,
I
sorry. Yeah, well, I'll just say I have a wonderful relationship with my son. He teaches theater education in Thailand and he married a nurse. So we're good.
Amazing.
Yeah,
How wonderful.
thank
Um,
you.
one of my dear friends, Dr. Wendy Schover, who's also been on Kim's podcast before, I believe, she teaches improv in the context of uh, healthcare. And just this past year, when I was at the international conference on physician health, there was a medical improv teacher doing some sessions in the breakout room. And they were some of my favorite, most memorable, hilarious moments in the entire conference. So I'm a huge fan of improv being brought into medical spaces. I totally see the value and celebrate that that's your work.
Thank you.
Well, that's terrific. So, yes, as Chrissy alluded to, I did have an episode on with four physicians, and we did speak a little to improv. Beth, for any of our listeners that aren't familiar with improv, if you could just share like a few basic sentences about it. But because before I found out about it, it was really Dr. David Fessel who, he was speaking to it, and he was on that call. And before that, I think I just thought it was like spontaneous comedy. So I
Hmm.
didn't really have the best understanding of it.
Yeah, and I saw that podcast, by the way, and enjoyed it very much.
Oh.
Um, Well, this is what we call applied improv, and there's a big organization called the Applied Improvisation Network, and medical improv is like a subcategory of that. And basically, it's taking all the philosophy and activities from that world of theater education and improvisation, and looking for ways to use them in healthcare to be helpful. So the idea that most people are familiar with yes and that term. And if you put
Mhm.
it under the microscope, which I love to do, but you can look at the yes as something that teaches emotional intelligence and it teaches how to listen. It teaches how to be part of a team. And it also, when we look at complex adaptive systems, there's so many properties that are relational. This yes and is always relational. So the activities that are built on yes and are always building relationships. That helpful enough without going too far?
I think so.
Yes, and
Yeah, go ahead, Chrissy. Add whatever you'd
yes,
like.
and there is also radical acceptance and surrender to reality in the yes, which I think is such potent medicine. The yes and is so
Absolutely.
wonderful.
There's an
Um,
activity called radical acceptance, and it's wonderful for teaching how to do that, how to accept. And it's also helpful when it's framed properly to give people experiences and highlight that feeling of being accepted, you
Would
know?
you like to share how that one works?
Sure. It's you name three things in a category. We can do it right here. We'll to say fruits. So, Chrissy, I'll ask you to name one fruit, and then Kim and I will have a little bit response saying yes. And then when you name your second one, we'll get a little more animated with yes. And then you'll name a third one. And if you can't think of some fruits, just make something up that we're not measuring your intellectual knowledge of fruits, but we are practicing
I
this
could definitely
affirmation
think
thing.
of three fruits. Okay, awesome. Grapefruits,
Yes.
Yes.
apples,
Yes.
Yes.
cherries.
Yes, cherries. Okay. That's fantastic. I love
It
that.
does indeed. It does indeed feel really good.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Just because you said what the apples and
And Chrissy, you said that improv was one of your favorite breakout sessions, and what I've come to understand too is, the doctors, feel like you have to be perfect and you can't make mistakes. And in improv, there are no mistakes, and or you could say mistakes are fun, right? Something like that. So if you remember anything that you did, or how it made you feel,
I
or
do.
why, what you'd like to share from your improv experience.
I have the perfect reflection for you, Kim. So we played a game that the name of which I can't remember, but it was a numerical game. So in the circle, we were supposed to like count off numbers, and when we would inevitably get it wrong, everybody would shout again. So whenever we made a mistake, everyone said again. And so it was impossible not to have a good and silly time in the exact moment of mistake making. Like we get to start all over again. Um, so it was delightful and so memorable.
I love that. And speaking to that, we don't have the best internet connection. We can hear you clearly, but your video is a little bit slow. So since we're talking about improv and we're doing this live, I wasn't quite sure if we should keep going or if there was any way that you could have anything to do with your internet speed. Otherwise, do you find the same thing, Beth? We can hear Chrissy fine. It's just that your video is a little bit choppy.
That has been an issue today. We surrender to the circumstances and we respond with vigor.
Okay, all right. Well, then we will keep going because I think most people listen and we can hear you just fine. So I think that was a great example, right, of everything doesn't need to be perfect. We're having a great conversation and we'll just keep on going. So, Chrissy, tell us a little about your Solving for Joy podcast and how that came about and the title and everything.
Yeah, Solving for Joy podcast came out because I feel like so many of our conversations are works of art that need to be shared. And it was almost like I was repressing the urge of creating this podcast for long enough. And then I just said, you know what? It is just time to let it out of me. And so it's really one of my creative practices. It is a gift. It's a labor of love. It is not a, a stream of income for me. It is just one of the ways that I get to make beautiful things happen in the world. And I have migrated toward having more people on and having these conversations. Sometimes I like to just teach as well, coaching principles, insights, etc. But I love asking other people, how are you solving for joy? Because we can do it in such adaptive and maladaptive ways, and there is no end of the intrigue. So just today, I recorded 2 episodes. One of them was with an integrative palliative care doc who just had amazing stories to share. And another was with a physician who is working with medically unexplained symptoms, doing neuroplastic symptom management through like deeply ingrained mind-body medicine work. And I just am like so happy to celebrate the cool things that people are doing in the world that bring joy.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And I remember when I was on your podcast, I love that you also share some coaching wisdom in there. I think you do a beautiful job. It's a beautiful tapestry. And
Thank you.
if you were to ask if Beth was on your podcast, what would you like to ask Beth?
Well, I would be excited to ask Beth to tell me all about how medical improv brings her joy, brings her meaning, alignment, and delight, and how she sees it also amplifying out in the people that she's teaching it to.
Wow. Thank you, Chrissy. It brings me joy when I get feedback that says that somebody says, like, oh, that's the first time I ever felt heard. Or I spoke up at a meeting and shared an idea that we're going to try now. And I know I wouldn't have done that if I didn't take your class.
Mm.
Um, that just, and I don't usually get that necessarily in the moment because it's a non-linear experience. You have the experience, I mean, you might have an aha moment then and there, but then you go out in life and oh, I just started and I noticed I was saying yes, but a lot.
Mm.
So I tried to reframe that, and our conversation went differently. And so that just feels really valuable to me. It gives me joy to contribute to humanity, to put it quite
Mm.
succinctly. And so, like the book that Kim's mentioning, the toolkit book, that's Train the Trainer, because it's like I know that these simple activities, at least some simple activities, can be used even just 5 or 10 minutes once a month in a healthcare organization or clinic to help build relationship and skills. So that book is a Train the Trainer, and that's what I hope to, filter out. A physician just wrote to me a couple of days ago saying she thank you for this resource. A friend of mine is struggling with a team that it has trust issues, and she recommended the book. And, I just feel good about that.
I love that. I'm thinking about several places in my life right now that could use that toolkit, bringing it to our teams. So I look forward to finding out more. One of my deeply ingrained beliefs, in fact, it may become a talk in the not too distant future, is about doing the unscripted thing, Beth.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it is in my mind body system that
Wow.
doing the unscripted thing is often the most authentic thing.
Mhm.
It is the least cultured thing. It is the least colonized thing. It is the least internalized, distress-ridden thing. So
Mm.
let us find what's true inside and then bring it
Mhm.
out and about through acts of courage, through
Yeah.
safe spaces where we can expect the
Yeah.
right amount of acceptance and
Yeah.
psychological safety. But doing the unscripted thing brings so much joy. So I see this beautiful Venn diagram of your
Mm.
work and this joy-centered work that I do.
Wow, that sounds lovely. That, the unscriptedness, all of the reasons that you stated, Chrissy, and I couldn't help but think how that authenticity that comes forward, even if it's painful, we're present with ourselves and each other, and just how, I mean, when it's not authentic, what is it? I don't even know what it is, right?
It's discordant, right? It's
Yeah.
compliant, it's
Oh,
discordant, and
compliant.
it is
Yes.
eventually uncomfortable, if not intolerable. I'm thinking right
Yeah.
now about times in my career where I've pivoted and done unscripted things. So, a year and a half
Mhm.
out of residency, I started a solo micro practice. I would have told you that was impossible, but then I did it. I went
Mm.
back to hospital medicine, also semi-impossible, but I did it. And then someone asked,
Mm.
would you like to help out at this long-term care skilled nursing facility for medically complex children? And I
Mm.
surprised myself by saying, yes, and right, like
Yeah.
I didn't have
Yeah.
that on my bingo card, but my body is saying yes, even though my brain does not understand why my body is saying yes. And here I am, 8, 9 years later. It is some of the most meaningful work of my life.
Mm. That's so beautiful. And when we're speaking to improv, I suspect if there's some doctors who aren't familiar with it, and if they took a quick look at your book without a background, they might just like discount it. Like, oh, this can't make a difference. This is just silly kid stuff. So, Beth, if you would like to speak to that, and then Chrissy, from after you experience improv, how you would like to respond to that. Oh, we can't hear you. I wonder what happened. I think probably now. Go ahead.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Let me just take a deep breath to get my train of thought. So, I have been facing resistance for many years. And I think that for a long time, I used to go, don't you see, don't you see, this is going to help everything. And I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. I think that physicians who might be skeptical, especially if it's a nurse advising, the forward in it is written by Michael Smith, and he's a internist in Nebraska and a fellow applied improviser, and he also performs too. I don't. But so that forward in and of itself, I think, might be reassuring to some physicians. Um, I don't know other what to say besides that. Yeah. Oh, I don't. Maybe Chrissy has some thoughts on it, or will if she reads it.
Yeah, I haven't read it, of course. I would love to. My very small experience and knowledge about improv, is that it brings laughter, which brings people close together. We know
Mhm.
that laughter brings oxytocin, endorphins, and dopamine together all at the same time. So there is bonding, there's positive memory making, and then there is a callback that you have with this person that you've shared a laugh with. And
Yeah.
whatever you're doing in improv is going to also bring laughter. So
Yeah.
not to oversimplify that, laughter is the only, mechanism of action here, but I think it is one of the mechanisms of action that will build trust and intimacy and good vibes on a team.
So I
So
think
there's
that's a
science
really
behind
nice. So physicians in a leadership role need to be team building as well as executing orders, right? So this can help
it.
with that element of it. Yeah.
Well, I
Yes,
love
yes,
that,
and
and
we
I'm
can
going to
have
be
physician
hosting
involved.
a physician retreat in New York here, Columbus Day weekend of 2026, and I definitely plan on incorporating improv as part of that. And I think it just helps foster, connection and like you said,
Mm,
just like joy and laughter, and it ends up being like the intent isn't funny, but again, since mistakes are okay, and when you're playing these games, you're going to make mistakes. And then just to feel, I think, supported, right? Like when you make mistakes, that nobody's going to be like, oh my gosh, why did you say that, right? That it can help you just feel like, oh, like that really is okay, that I made that mistake or, whatever, because it isn't really a mistake. So I love the premise of all of that. Beth, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about your work or what like take home messages for our audience?
Yeah, I think I would just add, and I think it builds on this conversation that we're having, is that, improv is very relational and experiential, and that relational field is what care and connection is all about. And so these activities, when facilitated properly, so that it's a psychologically safe and inclusive and diverse environment, can help us build the relationships that are going to give us more rewarding work, more joy in our work. They're going to help us provide safer care, and they're going to help us to have more therapeutic relationships, which is going to help patient experience. So I'll stop because otherwise I'll just keep going forever.
Well, what you can share is if people were intrigued, any of our listeners, and they wanted to find out more, how can they find out more and how can they get in touch with you?
Yep. So I have a website, bethboynton.com, and one of the tabs is on medical improv, and there's an FAQ. There's another page that will take you to all sorts of videos and articles and other podcasts. I'll add this one, of course, when it comes up. And I also do free Yes and events. It's Yes and 101, and the next one is in September 12th. So I post events there too. So
Well, that's terrific. Thank you for sharing that. And I've had them on my calendar and somehow I just happen to be busy. So as soon as you find out the
yeah.
next date, let me know and I'll have to mark it off like 3 months ahead. So yeah, thank you. And Chrissy, what else would you like us to know about your work these days and also how our listeners can get in touch with you and any take-home messages for our audience?
Thanks, Kim. I just love the take home message, which is the Venn diagram of do the unscripted thing. It will lead to unexpected delights and joy. And joy is part of our birthright, friends. No matter what kind of human you are or have been in the past, joy is still for you and it is still findable. I coach people through joypointsolutions.com. You can find out all about how to work with me there. I love to bring people into the listener fold at Solving for Joy podcast. And this year I'm hosting the Physician Coaching Summit in Carefree, Arizona in November. So that information is under events at my website, joypointsolutions.com. Thanks so much for having me on, Kim. As always, a delight to see you and celebrate the work you're doing in support of the future of healthcare.
Well, you're very welcome, and it was quite fun to reciprocate. I was looking forward to this, and I love what you to do the unscripted thing. I love that. So yeah, thank you for
And you're
sharing.
doing it, right? Like you are a living example of doing the unscripted thing. So high fives.
Thank you for sure. I know I keep saying I'm trying to catch up with myself because in some ways I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it, right? So I guess you're right. Oh, well, thank you. And in closing, to move the needle in healthcare, we all need to raise our voices and we all need to care about each other. We already know that doctors need to care about patients. Patients need to care about doctors too. So stand up, doctors, and let's stand up for doctors.